This year we get a particularly special Halloween. It falls on a full moon, which is rare enough. But not only that, it falls on a blue moon, which means it's a second full moon in a single month. Now, blue moons only happen once every 2 or 3 years. And that's why we say it happens once in a blue moon, to say that it happens very rarely. And Halloween only falls on a full moon every 16 to 18 years. I've no idea how often Halloween falls on a blue moon. Let's say it's pretty rare. I'm sure that many of you watching this video will already know that the word Halloween comes from All Hallows Eve. All Hallows Day, also called All Saints Day, is on the 1st of November, and that's followed by All Souls Day on the 2nd of November. So that whole period is very much steeped in this liminality, where the physical world and the spiritual world are deemed to be closer somehow. The barriers between the two might be thought to be thinner, if you will. Anyway, some of you will probably already know that this has an earlier origin in the Gaelic druidic festival of Samhain. It's spelt Smahain, but it's pronounced Samhain. And that heralded the start of the druidic New Year before the Romans took over and imposed their own calendar. It was a time when the Druids would perform large sacrifices to appease the spirits. These spirits had the power to grant them bountiful prosperity or devastation and death if they offended them. You know, trick or treats. And if you believed some of the antagonistic accounts, these sacrificial rituals, while mainly involving livestock, might well be one of the origins of the Wicker Man myth. Of course, I use the word myth here quite loosely. As I was saying, about this being a liminal period, an in-between period, it was believed, and still is believed in some circles, to be a time when the veil between the spiritual realms and the physical world is thin enough for it to be quite easy for the two to interact, at the very least. And in some cases, for spirits of various kinds to actually be able to pass through. This is actually where the dressing up comes from. The people would dress up in scary costumes so that when sprites and fairies and goblins and trolls and other spirits of chthonic or aerial nature actually came through, they'd mistake the costumed people for one of their own and they'd let them be. Now, I find it very interesting that on the entirely unrelated Slavic eastern extremity of the European continent, at a similar time, that is to say, just well before the arrival of Christianity, the festival of Dziady, meaning grandfathers, was being celebrated, where a similar thinning of the veil between worlds allowed the souls of departed ancestors to come through to enjoy feasts with their living family and grant them prosperity and peace in the afterlife. There's actually a very well-loved Polish play by Adam Mickiewicz called Dziady, the name of the festival, in which such a feast is thrown and the family's ancestors pass through a literal veil on the stage to partake in the meal laid out for them. So what's special about this time of year that makes it just so propitious to spiritual practice? Well, the festival falls about halfway between the autumn equinox and the winter solstice, and it marks the start of the darker half of the year, a time when the cattle were brought back down from the summer pastures and where the livestock were slaughtered for the winter. Bonfires were built to burn off fallen leaves and branches. And obviously, where there's fire, especially lots of it, and also death, the livestock being slaughtered and so on, then ritual follows pretty closely. And in Great Britain, this energy was transferred partly to Halloween and partly to Guy Fawkes Night on the 5th of November. I remember growing up in France. My mother taught English in a little private language school, and we'd invite all the students and their parents over every year to do Guy Fawkes Night, with fireworks, a huge bonfire, and cakes, and quite a lot of rum punch, if I remember correctly. And one year we decided to go all the way, make an actual guy out of stockings filled with pine cones from the forest, all dressed up in old clothes. I remember in particular the faces of the unsuspecting French guests for whom all this was very new and alien, and let's say they were surprised as we hoisted this human-looking form onto the bonfire and watched it burn. Yeah, those good times. So what's a nice thing for esotericists to do during this time of the year, where the veil between worlds is so thin? Of course, one popular option is a simple commemoration with candles lit for specific ancestors or all ancestors, depending on your preferences. So that's one popular option. The idea of generational healing comes up a lot at this time too. Well, let's be honest, everyone's got some unresolved baggage somewhere up their family tree, and it's a time to bring those wounds to the light, to give them a chance to heal. Aidan Wachter suggests a very beautiful ritual in his book Weaving Fate, which involves visualizing yourself retrieving what he calls worry stones from the stomach of a visualized version of you that you visualize lying comfortably on the floor of a temple. There's a next step to the practice where you visit yourself at difficult times in the past and you retrieve stones from yourself at those times. The stones are then thrown into a brazier, and the energy that's left over when the hard outer layers are burnt off is fed to a golden dragon who also lives in your stomach. The dragon doesn't actually consume the energy. It's got this golden egg that it keeps in a pouch. That egg is actually a magical energy storing battery that can never be depleted nor overcharged, and so the leftover energy goes into that everlasting storage where it can be used for good instead of doing the harm that it was doing. And then you start doing the same for people higher up in your family tree whose burdens you may still be carrying. It's a really neat ritual, and I'm really not doing it justice here, but just to say that it exists, and you should absolutely check out his book that I've linked in the description, which gives the ritual in full, with all the preparations so on to do it properly. It's really nice. So what rituals will you be performing for Halloween or around the Halloween period? Or if you're watching after Halloween, did you do anything interesting that you can share that others might try in the future? Leave a comment. I'd be really interested to know. So for now, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch the video. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video and to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you to all members who support the channel. If you'd like to know more about membership, check out the join button next to the subscribe button, which will tell you all about how it works and what you get and so on. And thanks in particular to the channel's level 3 members, the Magister Venerabilis members, being Aristarchus, Mateusz Sadowski, Chase Lawrence, Mrs. Kilmsoftly, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Medusa of Chaos, Helbert Space, Seda, Matu, Stev Berner, Arcanum Luminarium, Mystic Imagination, Rob Agrees, Merrily Duffy, Justin Lloyd, Metagordy, Osvaldo Gonzalez, Nunez, Oblivion Knight, Raoul Nair, Municipal Waste 666, Suncat, Ted Kaiser, Grillo Alba, Sean Glenn, J. Joseph Safi, Kyle Walker, Roluch Ashron, FMA, Charbon, Patrick, Arcantum by Mr. Friborg, Mr. Gunwich, The Jade Ghost, Miles Ponce, Timothy Owens, SMQAI, Z. Daniel Barnett, and Jason. Thank you all of you so much, and see you very soon with another video.